Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to this wonderful live stream that we have today. This is a master class on pawn structures, and today joining me is a top Dutch trainer from all the way from Netherlands. His name is Herman Grooten. He's an IM, but a very, very wonderful trainer. You know, his students include the likes of Van Velle, Jan Werle, Robin Swinkels, Wouter Spoelman, Twan Burg, even Benjamin Bok. So he's trained so many of the Dutch talents. And today, what we are going to do with him is present to you something that will help you understand the pawn structures better in chess. So, I want to just show you the Fritztrainer, the cover of the Fritztrainer that he has prepared for ChessBase here. And this is, it's a two-part series. It's called Key Concepts of Chess, Pawn Structures Volume 1 and also Pawn Structures Volume 2. And look at the depth in which the topics are covered. You know, he talks about the definitions, then doubled pawns, then backward pawn, tension, open file, pawn chain battle, IQP, passed pawn. Then you have the exercises. Then he talks about open files and half open files in this. Then there are also exercises there. Then you have the pawn chain with exercises there. This is the first Fritz trainer. Then the second one has doubled pawns, tension, capture, exercises, and so on. And then it also has all these knight takes f7 sacrifices, rook lift and switch, and many interesting topics there. And finally, the passed pawn. So you get to learn a lot about pawn structures from Herman's both the parts of the Fritz trainers, and it would be very interesting to listen to him. One of the things that we are going to do today is that we are going to ask you a lot of questions and you have to try and give the answers, and that would be the best. Science says in the chat that his book Chess Strategy for Club Players is one of the best. Well, on that note, let me invite him here so that he can talk more about it. Hello Herman, how are you?
I'm fine. You too?
Yes, it's great to have you here. And just now, one of our viewers has read your book. He says Chess Strategy for Club Players is one of the best books that he has read.
Well, I'm a little proud of it. It was a book of the year in 2009. Well, it was I think I like the book. It was based on the elements of Steinitz. Maybe everyone knows this table of strategic elements. And I give a lot of training sessions with this idea. So I developed a lot of material that was later on published in the book.
Fantastic. Wonderful. And so today we are going to talk about pawn structures. Why did you select this topic to make Fritz trainers for ChessBase, and why two volumes?
Well, I was invited by ChessBase last summer, and I went there for a whole week. Well, I developed a course on pawn structure together with my girlfriend, Petra Schurman, and she's in a strong FM. She got 2 IM norms. And together we developed this course for club players in Holland. And this course was very popular among the club players in Holland. They got access to play chess of ChessBase, and with Skype, where few trainers were giving those lessons based on this course. Later on, I got some new examples, some new analysis, because at the time where we developed this course, we only had, I think, Fritz 7 or something, and now we have Stockfish 15. So there's a big difference between those things, even in strategic positions. Sometimes I find some errors, and everything is corrected if I'm right. So I developed some new material, and then I decided to make a DVD about it. But then it turned out that there were so many hours of content that these people of ChessBase decided to put it in 2 DVDs, because otherwise, it was too much for 1 DVD.
Fantastic.
So
I just want to tell all the viewers here that although the name DVD has now stuck into the minds of people, it's actually you can just download it and you can play it on your computer. There's no need for a DVD drive. And also now there's a new feature where you can go to your ChessBase account and just watch it from your mobile phone, from your laptop, from anywhere without having to download. It's directly streaming. So I'll talk about it later. But first, Herman, should we go and check out a few sort of structures that you have developed, or you would like to
yes.
talk to? So
Yeah.
so here's the first position. I see only pawns here. Could you explain to us what this is?
Well, I got rid of the kings, especially because it's about pawn structures, not about a pawn ending, which some people are confused with. Well, I give this diagram because I like to introduce the terms that are used for pawn structures. For example, we have 2 double pawns on the board. We have, yes, the one from black of f6 and f7, and the one on b2 and b3. But there's a difference between those pawns, double pawns, because the one on b2 and b3 is isolated, so very weak potentially, and the one with the pawn on e6 together, it can be quite a strong pawn mass in the center. Correct. Where the king can hide and shelter on e7. And when there was no pawn on g4, then even f5 could be a very strong move.
This structure reminds me of the Anand Kramnik match somehow, like the king on e7, and
yes.
wish he would put his king there, and
I know that game, yeah.
Semi-Slav
game, yeah. Beautiful game, yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a pass pawn as well, and that one is on h5. We call this a pass pawn because there's no black pawn in the rank on the file of the h file, so it can run to a queen if that's possible. It's a connected pass pawn because it has support of this pawn on g4, and we call that a connected pass pawn.
So if there was this pawn here, then h5 would not be a passed pawn.
Exactly. Yeah, you can arrange a pass pawn when you play g5 and h6. Then in that case, correct. Yes. In this position, we also can define the backward pawn, and the backward pawn is on a half open file. In this case, it's the g file. The pawn on g4 has no support of brothers and sisters of other white pawns. So that means that this pawn has to be protected by a white piece. And the definition is, it's very important about it, that the square towards the pawn, the g5 square, is in black hands. So that can be used for a blockade.
So the square in front of the backward pawn is a weak square, which can be used by the opponent's
right. So it's different when the pawn on h4 was there, then it was not a strong square for black. And it's also protected by the square is protected by the pawn on f6. So that means black can put a rook on g5 and use another light piece to attack it. And such backward pawn can be potentially weak.
Right. And would you call this one a backward pawn? f6?
No. One could say that I think because the square in front of the pawn f5 is not a weak square. So when the pawn is on e5 of black, then I think then they call it as a backward pawn, because the square in front of the pawn can be very important. The pawn it's not able to advance very easy. Nice. So I think I read this in Kmoch, I think, one of the famous pawn structure books there are.
Power, something related to power,
Power
right?
of Pawns or
Power
something
of
like
pawn.
that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know the English term. I
Right.
read the German book. Well, definitions are not too important, but I think to get it strongly in your mind, in your memory, it helps you to define the plans belonging to pawn structure.
Mm.
For instance, the isolated queen pawn on d4, that's a very pawn that comes on the board very often. This is a potentially weak pawn, but in a lot of middle games, it can be a very strong power. This pawn, the pawn is protected by white pieces. White can launch an attack against the black king, normally putting his heavy pieces behind that pawn. Also a rook lift to the third rank, and then from d1 to d3 to h3, something like that. And then we are talking now on a normal king side position with fgh. You mean, yeah, those pawns we put back. But this is a typical example which is used in as a theme in many books. I think there are thick books about this, only this theme.
On isolated queen pawn.
Yes, yes. And I think for club players, the average club player, I'm talking for I'm making my lessons for this average. It's very important that you don't have to know everything. The only thing you have to know is you have some basic concepts, and these concepts are important to understand. And if you are aware of these concepts, then you can manage your middle games quite good in club games, I think.
Fantastic. Yeah. So today they will learn more of these. Here's another position that you have put up. This is this structure.
Yes. The white pawns on c4 and d4 are called the hanging pawns. That means they are on two half open files, the c file and the d file. So black can put his rooks on those files and attack them. But behind that pawns, the bishop pair normally is on b2 and d3. And when the bishops are pointing at the king's position at the other side, then you can imagine that white has a breakthrough with d5 and has a very strong attack. So the hanging pawns in the middle game can be very strong, but in the end game they can become weak.
Correct.
So this is a very common theme in a lot of middle games. Well, I play myself the Queen's Indian defense, and I have to play almost every game against the hanging pawns, with the hanging pawns, my with black. So
it's a common structure. Yeah.
Well, now we see again the backward pawn on g4 of white. The square on g5 is protected by the pawn on h6. White doesn't have a pass pawn, but he can achieve one with d5 or c5, and even with a pawn sacrifice, g5 followed by h6.
Ooh,
so there are
possibilities.
Yeah, a breakthrough on the h file. And black has a pass pawn on f4, but this is not a protected one. It's an isolated. I think we call it an isolated pass pawn.
Okay.
It has no support of the pawn on e6. E6 is also a backward pawn. One could say it's a weak pawn on a half open file, and so is b6.
Got it. Wonderful. So this is some very nice introduction to the different pawn structures that are there on the board. We have some people in the chat who say that they have understood a few things. Like Science says, in the candidates tournaments we have seen a lot of funny pawn structures. NBG says great to have such experienced trainers here. So it's very nice that they have got an introduction to this. If you had to sort of start this with a position for them, just what should we look at now first?
Well, doesn't matter for me, but maybe we can use that Fischer-Taimanov example.
Okay.
Because this is about tension, tension between two pawns. It's very important to know that in a lot of games, in almost every game, I think, there will be a tension between two pawns, or maybe more pawns. And in this case, there is a tension between c4 and d5. And with tension, when I studied games of club players, I saw that lots of people have problems with knowing when do we have to release the tension, or when do I have to keep the tension, or when do I do another thing. So in this case, white has three options. He can capture on d5. In that case, black takes back with the pawn. White can also play rook c2, keeping the tension, and let black take on c4. And the third one is releasing the tension immediately with c5. And Fischer played, in this case, c5, which looks like a strange move at first sight, I think.
He released the tension.
He released the tension. And the thing is, he now gives black two nice pawns in the center, d5 and e6. And if the black pawn can come to e5 and then maybe to e4, and also d4 is a possibility later to have a connected pass pawn. So that can be good for black. But
right. So here he goes bishop c7 in the game, right? But if he had taken, what should white play here? Guys, if you want to just try this out as a warm-up first question to you, what should white play? And by the way, guys, today we also have a special prize of this Fritztrainer Vol.1, which I'll tell about it more in detail at some point. Second, let me make sure that.
So the person which gives you most of the right answers will get the download, I think.
Yes, but also it's not so easy to know who gave the. So what I decided is that the one who puts in a comment at the end of this stream as to what did they learn from it today would get it. So just to show you, by the way, I just started the chat. So guys, can you put the move again? Because I just restarted the chat chess moves and now it's all set. So if you wrote the answer, can you please write down again, what should white play here? Okay. And at the end of it, Herman, you have to guess. I mean, you have to give your opinion on how good the viewers are. You know, are they strong enough? What do they have to improve and so on? We'll talk about it.
I'm curious.
So the first answer that everyone has given is rook c2. So good job done by WhatsApp, Yash, Dikshit, Eugene, Niklesh, Maharshi, Parag, Gattu, Shrikant and Aditya. That's the right answer, right?
Oh yes, that's the right answer. It's a lot of good players.
Well, this one was quite easy for them. So rook c2
rook c2 wins a piece.
Played, and this wins a piece. So in the game, he played bishop c7. And is this a good time to ask them the second question? What should they play here?
Yes. Now it's a matter of pawn structure. What is white's intention after releasing the tension? Because Fischer had seen something, of course, to get the advantage. What should white do in this position?
Guys, what should you play here in this position as white? Because Fischer releasing the tension gave black very strong pawns in the center. So you can't just continue without a plan. You should think what to do here. And let's see what does the chat have to say. Well, the main move that they considered here was f4. Although
Yes.
knight d4 is also going up, so it's a race between these two
Yes.
moves. So,
Yes.
which one would you say is correct here out of the two?
Well, f4 is the played move, I think. And that means that he wants to stop black from getting his pawns next to each other with e5. But we can analyze knight d4 because it was the most popular suggestion.
I think in the game knight d4 was played.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, knight
Yeah.
d4 is played. Yeah, but what about f4? With f4, one could think that you try to fix the pawns on d5 and e6. But the thing is that now black can play e5 still.
Ooh.
And after f takes e5, bishop takes, the bishop is activated in the center, and the pawn on c5 is not that strong that now white will get the advantage. And even rook a2 is in the air. So
nice.
But f4 basically could be a very strong move in a certain position, especially when white could have the control over e5. Then it was a great move, I think.
So,
But
knight
d4
d4. It's like
yes.
it's a more tactical idea here,
Yeah.
and check and the right move. Why this is the right move, Herman will explain. But until then, Suganya, Prahlad, Akshit, Naina, chess with Adi, Ishan, Aditya, Alpha Zero, Krish, and Ajinkya. You all have given the right answer, so well done. So don't we lose the pawn here, Herman? The c5 pawn.
Well, you lose it, but then white wins it back on e6 and wins another one on d5 because it's a forced line. You give a fork to the king and then you take that one.
Beautiful.
And now you're 2 pawns up, and this is a winning position already because you don't lose b2. That's very important. You can move your rook back to d2, and that means that
and
now
then you have two passers here, so you will win.
f4, g4, f5, etc. Yeah.
Okay.
So they are right, giving up the pawn on c5. So Taimanov was forced to go away with the king to d7.
And now f4 came in.
And now f4, yes.
Stopping e5, but he anyway played e5. Fischer gave a check. I think Fischer had this famous quote, no? Past pawns must be pushed.
Right.
And he does that.
Yeah, this pawn check is destroying the coordination between the pieces of black. So the king should choose which square. So it's easy to see that king d8 will fail to knight e6 check, and then capture on c7, and then taking a pawn on f5, I think, or maybe on d5. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Right.
And also king to, well, I think he went
c8. Yeah,
c8, yes.
he went c8. Yeah. By the way, in the chat, Eugene says, "Wait, white is a pawn up and in the first position. I didn't just check that." So I think when people started solving, they thought, "Oh, it's equal material," but white had an extra pawn.
Oh, sorry, we had to mention that first. Yes.
No, but it's their job. They did not realize it. So knight b5 played here by Fischer, and after rook a2, f5. Ooh, he gets a passed pawn.
Yeah, it releases the tension again. Ooh, because he's not taking on e5 because that will activate the bishop, and the pawn on b2 is hanging. So that would be a mistake. But to play f5 is very strong. So he leaves black with two connected passed pawns in the center, which are potentially very strong. But in this case, they are hanging pawns, and they are very weak now. And
now takes here, and at this point, Taimanov resigned. So beautiful example of how releasing the tension at the right moment with proper calculation can help you get passers and win the game.
Yeah, maybe can one move backwards.
Okay.
Instead of bishop d8, he could also play d4 to protect, to save his pawn. But then there are a few possibilities. Of course, f6 is winning, but personally, I would like king f3, king e4, centralizing the king to the light squares and have the domination over the whole board. So,
like Karpov, maybe Karpov would have
like Karpov would play it. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that was a great example. Which one should we look at next?
Let's see. Maybe we can go to Van Wely short.
Okay, sure. So let's go to Van Wely versus Short. And Van Wely was your student, right?
Yes, when he was 10 or 11 years old, he was my student for 2.5 years, I think, something like that. But then he already got too strong for me, so I recommended another trainer for him, which was Cor van Weijeren, a strong IM in the Netherlands. He is the man behind the step method. Maybe
yes,
you know
it's
that,
a very famous course where, you know, when people don't know chess, they can start with the first, I think it's called the first step, then the second book, then the third book, and they can become a strong player by reading
right.
it.
There are 6 steps now, and well, one of the big examples of becoming a grandmaster is Jan Smeets, one of the champions of Holland 2 times. He was trained by Rob Brunier, the companion of Van Weijeren, when he was 7 or 8 years old, and then later on Van Weijeren had taught him everything he knew, and then Pedro Nikolic was taking over as strong grandmaster, and well, this guy became a strong grandmaster. I think his top level was 2670 or something, which we can compare with 2700 now, I think. But well, he had done all the exercises from this method, the 6 steps method, with a lot of material, tactical material, but also strategics and end games, and not much about openings. But Van Weijeren always says that the golden rules of the opening: so put the pawn in the center, develop your pieces, and castle, bring your king in safety. That will help you every time, but even when you don't know the opening. So such basic rules are very important for club players.
Right, absolutely. So going to the game between Van Wely and Short, of course, both of them world-class players. This was played in Vaikanze. Van Wely opens with d4. We have the Queen's Gambit declined on the board, which is Short's favorite opening. Pawn
Yes.
takes pawn, bishop g5, c6, e3, bishop f5. And here's my question to the chat. What should white play in this position to get something in this opening? Because generally, when black gets his bishop out to f5 in the Queen's Gambit declined, he has solved all his opening problems. If he does that without any problem, you know, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So what should white do here to at least pose some trouble to black? So we have a Jaideep here, who is a moderator, and he suggests a move, and I want, Herman, your opinion on it before we go to other moves suggested by everyone. He says bishop d3. What do you think about this move, and is it a good move?
Well, the thing is that white was prepared to play bishop d3, and the bishop is a very strong one, because the bishop can be used, the light squared bishop for white can be used for a kingside attack, or some activity at least on this diagonal. That's why black likes to play bishop f5 to prevent bishop d3, because the trade of those bishops is in black's favor. Why is that? Because the pawns are fixed in the center on the light squares, means that the light squared bishop of black is the bad one. But I can still imagine that one player is going for this. I know a game of Ulf Andersson where he played this with white, and he also captured on f6 his nice bishop for the knight. And then and afterwards he said, I have two knights in a close position against a good bishop and a knight, but my knights are maybe stronger than the bishop. So
maybe Ulf Anderson is an exception because of his beautiful technique. Yeah.
yes, but most of his games ended in a draw because there was not much to fight for.
Okay, so Queen F3 is the right move, but let's see how many people were able to get that. We have, oh, everyone wanted to go Queen B3, but
Well,
Queen F3.
that's also I think you have quite experienced viewers.
Yes.
Queen b3 is also a logical move to go there, but the thing is, when black already has played c6, he sometimes can answer with queen b6. But one can ask themselves, why is this a good move? You can give black two double pawns. You can capture on b6 and capture on f6. Well, the double pawn f6 is bad for black, but the double pawn on b6 is strong. So b5, b6, b5, b4 can be a plan. And of course, black has the bishop pair, and he has a lot of compensation in activity for the bishop for this ruined pawn structure.
Right,
I think.
right. Yeah. So this is also a very plausible idea, guys. Queen b3,
Yeah.
but Queen f3 is the better move here, and it has been answered by Prahlad, Karthik, Swagato, Ojas, Gattu, Naina, Sayan, Megha, Sunil, and Manisha. Well done, all of you. By the way, in the chat, one question is, Herman, which is the 6 steps book he was talking about? And I think if someone wants to check that out, how can they do it? Because there are many who are beginners and would like to check it.
Well, it's from level 0, yes, to an experienced club player. I think when you succeeded step 6, then you are all around 2000 elo already. I think maybe something more. Well, you can go to the step method when you maybe I can give the link to the website. It's www and it's a Dutch word, stappenmethode.nl.
Okay, I will put it in the
chat later.
in the chat later. So
right.
That would be great. You can send it to me and I can put it up. Okay.
Right.
So Queen f3, bishop went back. He took.
Yes.
He took, takes, and now we have a double pawn on the board, and those are isolated, and I really despise them because there's also an isolated pawn on h file. How can a player like Short play this way? Like, what is the positional justification, Herman?
Well, they think that the bishop pair is enough compensation because white gave away his bishop for on g5 for the knight on f6. And they think that they can get rid of this pawn maybe later with f6, f5, and maybe f4, supported by a bishop on d6. But things are not that easy. And I knew this because I studied a game of Petrosyan before when I studied this opening, Petrosyan Barclay, where the queens were on the board still for the middle game.
So he took here with the pawn. He didn't take with the queen.
He didn't take with the queen. And the nice thing of Petrosyan is that now he has achieved this double pawn. And now maybe that's a good question for the readers in this case. What is white's best move in this position? Because now this is not an easy question.
Right.
What Petrosyan did was I like very much.
Well, now Herman is getting into the groove, guys. He's going to ask you some questions. So, what's the move here? Can you think? Let's see. By the way, Jaideep has already put the link of steppenmethod.nl/en/. So yeah, they have the the link here, guys. You can check it out. The step method.
And there's English language is on the site as well. Yes.
It's a very famous method. You can, if you don't know anything about chess, it's a very good place to start. Okay, so we have a few suggestions, very interesting suggestions, and I guess there's some right moves there. So the move that has been suggested here is few of them have said h4, which is the most popular, and knight h3. Are they good? Is any one of them the correct answer?
Petrosian played a completely different other move.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, I think h4 is not a bad move, maybe because there's a threat of h5 winning a piece, so black should do something about it, probably or h5 or h6. But Petrosian played queen d1.
What? Oh.
Yes.
Queen.
Yes. Well,
No
the
one,
thing
no
is,
one, no one answered that. That's actually very rare, yeah, Herman. Whenever
yeah,
I've been doing commentary for like 2 years, and at least one person gives the right answer. So maybe
it's a very surprising move. But I got this position out of this biography made by a certain Clark, I think Canadian I am. And he was very lyrical about this move. He said, well, the queen has done its job, achieved the double pawn, so the queen is best placed on the queen side, because the threat of queen b6 is a very nasty threat. So if you play h4, maybe that's what we were discussing, maybe queen b6 is possible,
and
because there's
suddenly
an
it's not easy because
immediate threat of queen takes, and you cannot play rook b1 exactly. So
I
queen
think
b6 is,
long castle, but it looks very dangerous. Like with the
yes,
king bishop looking here, it's not a great
right,
idea. Okay, so
yeah.
that's Petrosian for you in a nutshell. He is prophylactic and he can see the opponent's ideas.
Yeah, he stops every counterattack of black. And so now black was the whole game without any counterplay. And at the end, Petrosian, he jumped all around with his beautiful knight around the board, and he took away all his pawns on f6, f7, and h7. So he was 3 pawns up when the opponent resigned.
So guys, this is your homework. Maybe you can check it out later. The game Petrosian Barza. That is the game, and you can see how Petrosian played here. Okay, beautiful. So
Yeah.
shot took with the queen,
Yes.
exchanges, pawn takes, knight f3, knight to d7. The knight came here to h4, bishop e7, and maybe this is a good moment, yeah, to think what should
Yes.
white play.
Yes.
Okay, guys, what should white play in this position? There's a very tempting move to win back the bishop on g6. Would you do that? Would you take on g6? And your opponent has bishop pair. Why don't you recapture there one of the bishops? So what should you play? It's an important moment, guys. Try to figure out what should be your move. And in fact, you are competing here with the great players like Jan Werle, Magnus Carlsen, who has had this position. So let's see
Against
if you
Kramnik.
yes, against Kramnik. So here's
Kramnik trusted this variation.
Kramnik trusted it, but got himself burnt here against Magnus. So let's see what our chat has come up with. The move that they have mentioned is f4 in majority. Then there is g4. Then there is g3. Then there is king d2, bishop e2, long castle. I think, Herman, today's session, they're going to learn a lot, because not everyone is able to find the right moves. But is what they are mentioning logical to you?
Well, it's a very difficult position, of course. Carlsen played the novelty of the year in this position.
Ooh, no.
And his second, that was Ludwig Hammer, got the prize of the best novelty of the year with the move played by Carlsen.
Okay.
And Carlsen played knight e2, and this is a completely strange and unexpected move, but everything has to do with the square on f5. When white is able to get a knight on this square, and also before doing that, when he's able to exchange the light squared bishops, then he will be virtually winning. He has the winning position. But the strange thing of this move is that the knight is going to g3 exactly, and that Carlsen didn't bother bishop b4 check because he simply played king d1, and there was no counter attack. Kramnik showed a very long tactical line with starting with I think knight b6 or something. I don't remember it exactly,
Yeah.
but
In the game, right?
in the game, yeah.
He went knight b6, knight g3
Yes.
check, knight
Yes.
a4.
Knight a4, yeah.
And here he couldn't take on b2 because of king c2 and rook b1, maybe that.
Yes, losing a piece almost, or the pawn on b7, which is also yeah, king c2. Yes, he has to go to c4, otherwise he loses a piece.
If you go here, then king b3 attacks this, so he has to go to c4, and then
yes,
maybe take,
and then rook b1, and then pick up the pawn on b7.
Oof, that would be very nasty.
He has two double pawns, and yeah.
So,
and despite the bishop pair, the knights are terribly strong here. That's clear.
Absolutely.
But so if we know that it's going about the square on f5, that means that we also like to trade the light squared bishop. But I think f4, what was mentioned, can be.
Everyone wants to trap this bishop somehow, but maybe not the best.
No, it's not the best, but I'm wondering what is white doing, probably of black doing. Maybe he can answer with f5 himself, I think. And then the knight has to go back. And there's a black knight, yes, also that move. And there's also a black knight coming to e4, I think. So it's not easy to do something about the double pawn anymore, because now you fix everything and you give away the square on e4, maybe on the wrong moment. But f4 is very tempting, I can imagine.
So Jaideep asks a good question, Herman. He says that if you go knight e2, wouldn't f5 stop you from getting that f5 square?
Yes, but the thing is that Carlsen planned g3. So what is his idea? When black settles up white with a double pawn himself, he now has a very ugly bad bishop on g6, and white has beautiful squares. So he has a square on f4 for his knight. He also can fix the pawn with f4, and then later, and then knight g3 and bishop d3. Attacking the pawn is f5. So that can be a big trouble for black, and this is considered to be almost lost on the top level.
Correct. This reminds us of yesterday's game of Fabiano Caruana and Jan Nepomniachtchi at the candidates, where Fabi went g3, allowing bishop h4. It's not the same concept. I mean, here it's more about this pawn weakness and getting the f4 square.
Right.
But sometimes double pawns can be very useful. They give you open files and so on.
Right. And in this case, also knight f4 and h5 can be trapping the bishop as well. So it's a big problem for black now. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. So
right. Good question, by the way.
Yeah. So g3 was played by Van Welle.
Yeah.
Knight b6, and then he went f3.
Yes. What he likes to do is to come over to bring his king to f2, and then tries to play a rook to d1 and to put the bishop on d3, and then tries to play f4 on the right time, that he has to exchange the light squared bishop. That's the whole plan of white.
And then you get the f5 square for your knight.
Right. You want to create that square for your knight without any defense of the square. So I think short went on with a5, I think.
Yes, a5, king f2, a4,
yes.
Rook c1,
yes.
Knight c8, bishop e2, knight d6, rook d1, castles, and now bishop d3. So that's what you said has happened.
Yes.
But of course, short is not going to take on d3 voluntarily.
No.
He goes rook f e8.
Yes.
G4. Ooh.
Now he fixes the square on f5 first. So he should have played f5 himself. That was considered as a better attempt.
So take,
black.
and maybe then f5 here is what the notes
Yes.
you mentioned. So here, instead of that, he played rook f8, g4,
Yes.
bishop f8, and now what a beautiful maneuvering, right? Against this, now you are having all your pieces.
Yes, you see, the knight maneuver was already known by this game. The knight c3 to e2 to g3, and now because the square on f5 is fixed, and now that's the most important thing is now that yes, he plays f4, now threatening to trap the bishop, and he has to exchange the bishops, and now the square on f5 is for white for the rest of the game. Okay, no, wait. Oh, yes.
Sorry. I had to ask a question.
Yeah, I want to ask, how do you take back? But not a problem.
I was too quick. Sorry
for that.
The best move
is capturing with the rook, because the black rook is very active, and he wants to trade that rook first.
Nice.
Beautiful. And now, well, he should trade on b3. And now from maybe the next move.
Okay.
We can ask the audience, how is white going to proceed?
Guys, how do you proceed here with white to play? It's a little complicated, but try to think, and also don't blunder your pawns just like that. Like everyone in the chat is like b4. There's a bishop sitting here, wants to capture you. So be careful, guys. So the move that has been mentioned here, Herman, is b4 at first, but no, now knight h5.
That is very, very, very well done.
Oh, guys, well done.
Yes, because the knight is now forcing the rook to e6 to protect f6. But then the back rank is very weak. Okay. So, and that gives white the opportunity to make use of the back rank. So what do you think?
Okay, next move, guys. What do you do?
Yeah.
Knight
what
h5.
Do you do with white?
By the way, Sayan, Mega, Chess, Jaideep, Khalil, Ojas, Ishan, Satya, and Pritam. Well done. No, come on. This is too good, guys. Well done. Look at this, Herman. They have called everyone.
Well, very clever people.
Well done, guys.
Rook Indeed, yeah.
A2.
Rook A2. Yeah, so the rook A2 in the previous move was not that accurate, because now the rook on E8 is now on E6, and that means that's a completely different story, because now
I can
black
take,
cannot. Yeah, now he can take. Yeah.
But with the rook on E6, now going here, if you take, then basically I can go rook A8.
Right.
And then there is a mating idea with knight h6 and rook f8 mate. Ooh.
Right. Yeah, and you cannot prevent it.
So he went b6. And is this a good point to ask the last question?
Again, last move of the game.
Okay, guys, last move. How do you continue here? White to play and bring the point home. The small hint to you is that after the next move, Nigel Short resigned. It's not, most of the times what you guys try to do is you try to look for a direct move, like something what attacks, but it's not always the case. So try to figure out what is hanging, and let's see what they have mentioned here. b4 is they got excited, Herman, like,
yes,
and they just go give. You said they are intelligent people, and then everyone got excited, and I think this just gives up a free pawn, right?
I think it's too early. Maybe he has some trick in mind. I don't see a trick. So
Maybe knight
maybe
h6, but king f8.
maybe knight h to g7. No, wait. Was this the idea of bishop takes b4? Because the rook now is trapped.
Oh my god.
Was this the idea?
But even if you take the rook fe6, and I think black would be back in the game, right?
Right. Yeah. I think you give away the rook, and you have a nice pawn structure again, and there's no entrance for the white rook. So with 2 pawns, or with 1 pawn for the exchange and a nice pawn structure,
guys, you can see how Herman is a very good trainer. You know, even when you gave a wrong move, he's still thinking whether this move could be good or not, and that's a very good quality to have as a chess player, to always try to figure out what the opponent's move should be.
Probably they had seen this. But wait a minute. The rook wasn't trapped, I see now, because the rook could go to e4 after knight g7.
Right.
So it doesn't work. But it's good to see those possibilities as a club player, because you can, if you win material, you always have to look at it, of course.
Right.
But it doesn't work. But the idea is nice, could be nice, but
it's the right idea, but you have to prepare it. And
yeah, the right move was the third one. The rook a4 was played by Van Werle.
So Sayan, Khalil, Prahlad, Dhanai, Chess D, Vikas, Tapiva and Tejas, you guys have got it right. Rook to a4, preparing b4. The knight will have to move, and then rook a8 is game over. In this way, Van Werle won a very nice game.
Yeah, and he had a very bad relationship with Nigel Short, so he was very happy that at the time that he won that game. They had a quarrel together. Nice. But it's maybe funny to tell that studying the classics, like I did with all the Petrosian games, to win a game pure on structure, I like that very much. And when I studied this Petrosian Barkside game, and I now saw my previous student Van Werle also beat a strong guy with this structure, I was starting to play it myself. Maybe we can show this game, my game against Bob Wade. Bob Wade was an international master who was for decades a big organizer in England. And he has done a very good job to find sponsors for chess in Great Britain, and he did a very good job. And this game was played in Gibraltar in 2007, where that may be a funny story to tell. I was sitting next to an international master from England. He was called Robert Bellin. He was one of the British champions in the 80s and in the 70s before. And I knew him because we were coaches in World Championships. So we met each other. And at the time when we both played in Gibraltar, we had about the same ELO, about 2380 or something like that. And we were sitting next to each other the whole tournament. So it was 10 rounds. So we beat it 2200 guys. And then most of the times, and then we got 2650. Then we both lost, so we were down the tournament all the time. And finally, in the last round, he beat Victor Kochnoy. So that was a great achievement of him. So that was a nice experience. So Bob Wade, well, he was a kind of experienced international master, but when I played him, he was. I think he was above 80 already, 80 years old.
So okay. So let's look at the game, and let's look at the similarities between Van Werle or Petrosian's game. So bishop, just h6 is included.
Yeah, it's included now. That makes a lot of difference.
Really? Does it help black, or does it make it worse?
No, it's actually it's mistaken.
Because then let's imagine that even if he went here, Then after takes, this g6 bishop. So if you attack it like even twice, it cannot stay there stable, right? With the pawn, if it was on
Right.
h7.
Right.
That's the
You
point.
need the pawn on h7. So h6 was a slight mistake.
Got it.
And moving it to h7 was even worse. Now we can ask the readers, the watchers later on what white can play in this position, because we now know the concept of handling this pawn structure.
So guys, what to do here, right? In this position?
No.
After taking.
After the trade on f6 twice.
Okay, take on f6, and now.
Yeah, and now, yeah.
Yes.
What could be white's best move in this position?
Okay, what should you do here, white to play? So you see, guys, sometimes games are won and lost just based on pawn structures. If you know how to play in a certain pawn structure, then it can be very useful. So today's this lesson or this master class is an example of how knowing one kind of pawn structure that Herman knew from games before of studying Petrosian helped him in his game.
Oh, sorry, Chaka. I mean, knight f3 and knight d7 I included.
Knight. Okay.
So sorry. And now.
Yes.
Now this is the question. What can white do now because of the structure?
Okay, now is the time for you to think.
Yeah.
It's a tricky position, right? There could be 2-3 good moves here.
Yes, could be. Yeah.
Yeah. But what you played, I know the move because I've seen it, and now I would not have played it in my game. So now I understand why you played it after this lesson.
Well, it's good to know your classics sometimes.
Okay, guys, let's see what you have replied. So a lot of people want to go like Magnus 92.
Yes, I can imagine. Maybe they're right. I don't know.
They want to go knight e2 here, but maybe that's one. And knight h4, just like how Jan Werle did with short.
Yes.
But
I guess
there are a few people who made your move as well.
Yes, because I thought during the game that because I knew the principle of this game is how can you exchange the large squared bishop without readjusted his pawn structure. So that's why I played long castling
with the idea of bishop d3.
Ooh. Bishop d3, yes. But we have to check if the most counted moves, if they are also correct. Maybe shall we have a little look to knight e2, because that was chosen by many viewers.
Right.
The idea must be knight h4, I guess.
Yeah, knight, same concept. I think what you just showed, like maybe getting the f5 square. People are saying, oh, Vedant says, now this is something, Vedant, you have to go and check your rules. Yes, long castling is not illegal here, because because the bishop is not coming in way of the king. Right, it's just coming in way of the rook's move. So your king is going from here to here, so you can long castle. Okay.
Yes.
So knight e2 is also okay, I guess, Herman.
Yeah, I think we must count that correctly. Yeah.
And also knight h4. That seems also
and
good.
Knight h4, because now you also can play knight e2, knight g3 probably. Correct. I don't see how to. It would be the same as in the Carlsen Kremlin game.
Correct. Okay.
Yes. Okay. There were plenty of good moves then. So castling is okay, and knight h4 is okay, and knight e2 is okay. So
long castle. He went bishop b4. You went bishop d3, which is what you wanted.
Yeah. Now you should play bishop g6, I think. And then I played knight h4, rook g8, and then g3, because I want to play f4 to try to trap the bishop later, or put the bishop on f5 first and then play f4. I want to force him to take on f5.
Right.
To take, so somehow. But this is much better for white. But after this move, it was for me quite easy now, because now I went with my knights to this square f5.
Right.
So we can follow the game.
Knight h4, g3,
Yes.
a3, h3, knight f5.
There the knight is.
I'm thinking you will get soon. I like your technique here because you can go g4 as well, but I guess some h5 ideas.
Yes.
So you
I
will
want to stop that first.
do
Yeah.
this and then come
Yeah.
like this, yeah?
I don't want to let him give him some counterplay. So the knights are beautiful again.
Beautiful.
And now I fixed the squares, of course. And now I came with the same kind of maneuver like Van Wely did. Rook to
Oh,
b3.
yes, going from the queen
the rook
side.
left, b6. And now his rook was trapped.
Okay, let's ask the viewers. Guys, what should white play here?
Yes.
Small hint is you have to trap the rook. Some people also wanted in that long castle position to go king d2. I think that's also not bad, right?
It's not bad, no. But that's a slight difference, because he sometimes can play knight b6 or something, and then
Knight c4, yeah.
knight c4, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, so here everyone wants to go f3.
Well, I didn't want to do that one.
Hmm.
And do you know why?
Oh, maybe it's because he will get tripled pawns, yes?
Yes, I didn't like the triple pawn. So he starts to take on f5. Otherwise, you now take on e7.
But oh yes, and then intermediate.
That's a different story. Yeah, this is winning for white, I think, easily. This also attacking the rook on h. But you should take on f5. If you now take the rook on e4, you have knight g3.
And then rook attacked, and then knight e4.
And then black has compensation for the exchange. So I should take back on f5 with the pawn. And you just also can move the rook backwards, but I was afraid of rook takes f4, and I didn't like my pawn structure here.
Right, this is horrible, yeah?
Yes.
This pawn.
Yes, at least, yeah.
I mean, look, black had doubled pawns which were ugly, but now white has triple pawns. So
yes, but every pawn is weak, because also d4 is weak. Rook g2, rook d2, but of course rook c1 is a threat. Rook c3 is a threat. So also black has to be careful. But this is maybe better for white, but it's not so clear as in the game. I think.
In the game, you went knight g3 and the rook is trapped. And this was said by Dhanai, Sayan, Developing India, Chess with Adi, Satya, Vikas, Sonu, and Ranjan. I think the players who said knight g3 are more careful. You know, they looked at opponent's counterplay. So knight g3 just.
Yes, and there's a lot of players play knight d6. I think that's
also okay. Yeah?
That looks okay as well. Yeah, that's also. Yeah, that's also okay.
Knight d6 is also full points to Arav, Ansar, Graham, Ishan, Vedant, Sumit, Jaideep, Dikshit, Reena, and Van. Well done, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so beautiful game here. Herman, do we have like time for like couple of positions that people can guess? So maybe we can test them. This was a great structure with the games. They got to know about Petrosian game first, Van Velle shot, then also Carlsen Kramnik and Herman versus Bob Wade. So it was a nice.
Yeah, you can put that together. Yes. Well, what we were discussing in those games were, of course, the influence of good and bad bishops, and this is especially for position with pawns, the pawns chain battle. You have to know which is your good bishop and which is your bad bishop, and maybe we can do we can put on the board a position, Korchnoi Van Wely, where Van Wely went wrong. We can go to that position immediately. It is on the, well,
Yes.
after the 19th move of black. It's a King's Indian position. It's the pawn chain battle in the King's Indian. This is the main line in the King's Indian. Korchnoi used to be one of the specialists with this line, the Mar del Plata line, I think it's called.
This one.
Yes. The last move, the previous move of white was knight to c6, attacking the queen on d8. And in this tournament, Van Wely had already a higher elo than Korchnoi. He had 26.55, and Korchnoi had, at the time, he was already an old man, but he was still strong,
Right.
26.10. And Van Wely played King's Indian a lot of times. He liked this opening very much, but now he went wrong. He played queen d7. And this is a positional and tactical mistake.
Okay, so guys, what should white play here? Try to think. Not an easy move, but if Korchnoi played it, it has to be like a nice sort of a tactical idea. Let's see if you can find it. Van Wely was a very good King's Indian player, right?
Yes, yeah, he liked to play this very much. He had a lot of success. Well, he calls himself King Luke.
Yes.
And it was in the period that he was winning a lot of open tournaments in the world. He played a lot of tournaments, maybe 2 tournaments in a month, all year long. So it was incredible. He went from Philadelphia to Canada to Europe again, then to Asia. He went everywhere, and well, he became a very strong player. And of course, in the opens, you have to win with black, and then King's Indian, of course, is a very nice opening to get a double edge position.
Right. Well, knight takes a7 is the correct move, guys. Arav, Vikas, Ritik, Khalil, Sayan, Gattu, Ojas, Chess with Adi, Reena, and Chess D. Well done, guys. See,
Beautiful.
Knight a7.
You have a strong audience, Sagar. It's the right move, yeah. Well, why is this the right move? Well, after this move, white is getting the very important light squared bishop on c8. And without that bishop, the attack on the king's wing is nearly impossible after this move. So I was standing beside the analysis after this. This is the trick, of course. You cannot take the knight because then you lose the exchange and a pawn. But after this, in the post-mortem, Korchnoi had a big laugh. He said, "Why are you playing King's Indian? And you don't know that you have to keep that bishop. You need to keep that bishop. You cannot play King's Indian when you do this." But Van Wely had missed his trick, I think. He didn't. Of course, he knew that he had to keep that bishop.
Many times black also sacrifices a rook in order to just make sure that that bishop is alive.
Maybe he should have done that. Maybe rook takes a7, but I guess that it was not enough as well.
Yeah.
So he lost this game because he lost this light squared bishop, and Korchnoi won it in a great style. This game. Yeah, you can show this. Maybe we have another move to find later on.
Okay, I'll go slowly so I don't miss it. Bishop e1 takes king h2, bishop c5. This is quite easy for Korchnoi.
Yeah, rook h1 is a funny move. He is now putting his he wants to destroy the potential attack of black, because sometimes you have h4 and a knight to g3, and then sometimes h3, and when your king is on the h file, it's dangerous. But he puts his king backwards to g1 and then puts his rook beside on h2.
Nice.
And now he had covered the potential attack, so there's no attack anymore. Eh? And now he will win on the queen side. So taking away a pawn, protecting again, very prophylactic. Okay, and now maybe one moment. I have to look which move I want to ask for.
Mhm. Is it
Because
the 40-second move?
people can find one moment. Okay, after the 41st move of black, king f8, yes. Now we have to find which move did Korchnoi play in this position.
Okay, guys, this is not easy. This is tough.
This is tough.
You know what? I know what my chat will say the move. I know them.
Yes, but yeah, if you don't know it, it's not easy. I agree, but well, if you understand what is this position all about, then it's perfectly logic.
Right, but like I don't know, as a trainer, you would have worked with many, not just top players, but also with improving players. And I
Yes.
see that most common error in them is that they want to force matters all the time, like make forcing moves, attack something, make a
Right.
pawn break, exchange
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
here also their first intention always is like b6 or something that
Yes.
I can
Yes.
break or attack. So how do
Right.
you sort of stop this?
Well, the thing is, what you see with the top players all the time is that they improve their pieces before going for action. And I think that is a very, very useful advice. Just try to put your pieces in the best places, best squares, and then start the action. So there was one trainer in Spain. It's a grandmaster, Artur Kogan. He always said, no action before development. And that was, of course, about openings. But in this case, you could say it's also in the middle game. No action before you are fully developed to make the action work. Because b6, as you said, is a forcing move, but it's brings you nowhere because, well, you are just exchanging a very strong pawn against a weak one. And bringing your forces into play. Well, white now likes to play on the queen's wing because the king side is fixed. He has put everything in order, and black has no way to attack anymore. So that means that now he should play on the queen side. So how can he manage to get his pieces into play? So that's the question in this position, I think.
Yes, that's very well explained. And guys, maybe based on that, you can think of changing your answer now. And all those who I saw b6 went down. There were a lot of people had written b6. Now they've changed it to something
Okay,
else.
they're changing their minds.
Yes, so that's already a good sign, guys. But think about how you can get all your pieces into the game. Also, the one move which they are suggesting looks quite interesting, though. Herman, they say bishop c5.
Well, that's yeah.
They want to go b6 now, so it's still tactical.
Yes.
But they're
Yes,
preparing
but
it.
maybe knight e7 is the right answer then, driving away the king, the queen, and then putting another knight on c6, c8 to cover all this important squares, like a blockade.
Right.
Of course, black is much worse, but it's not easy to break through.
So the right move, guys, and the move that was played in the game by Korchnoi, and this comes naturally to a player like Korchnoi, is rook h1 because he needs the rook this side. And the right move has been found by Chess with Adi, Dhanai, Ajinkya, Arav, Vikash, developing India, Sayan
Well
and
done, guys.
Ajinkya.
Yes, and the funny thing is, well, before it was Korchnoi playing rook h1, king h2 to cover the attack, and now the attack has gone. He comes back, he plays rook h1 again, and he plays king h2 backwards, and then putting the rook on the queen side.
Nice.
And now it was quite easy after this, because when you see the rest of the game, you can, if you follow the game, then you see how easy he now managed to get a breakthrough on the queen side. So he puts his pieces in the best position. He's just ignoring any attack. There's no attack. And now
At the right moment.
this is the right moment, because now the pieces are on the wrong squares for black as well.
With knight e7, he went back, queen c3, attacking e5.
Yes.
And there it was. He resigned here, Van Velde. Also notice how the rook will enter decisively at some point in the game.
Right, right. Because now the coordination of the black pieces is completely destroyed because of his beautiful maneuvers. So Van Velde got a King's Indian lesson in this position. He was not amused, by the way.
So, Herman, can we have one last position before we end today? So, guys, this will be the last one, and you have to think about it. And also, if you want to get...
Maybe another pawn chain is a nice one. Moskalenko Fedorchuk.
Okay.
It's a French position. Moskalenko is the guy who wrote several books about the French. And now he got the French defense against himself kind of position, which we can know. It's from a different opening. I think this was a d4 opening, but it's the typical French pawn chain. And in this position, you can see that the black pieces are a little bit cramped on the queen side. But of course, his light squared bishop has exchanged for the light squared white bishop. So that's a little success for black. But the so-called bad bishop of white is on d6, where the bishop is quite strong. But of course, to do something with this pawn chain battle, the rule Nimzowitsch already has invented was to attack the pawn chain on the tail and not on the head of the chain.
So attack the base of the pawn chain.
Yes.
So here this is the base, and if this is the pawn chain, then this pawn here on f7 is the base, right? These two.
Well, there's a little bit confusion about that thing. One would say that that's the base, but Nimzowitsch said the base is the last pawn of the pawns who are fixed to each other. So he says d4 is the base and e6 is the base. So you must point out your pieces on the base of the fixed pawns.
Got it. So this one, because it's fixed by d5, this would be the base. So you hit here, but there's no pawn to hit it with c5.
Yes, he cannot attack the base. Yeah, but white is attacking the base, and he can attack that, and that's why. Or maybe we can ask the viewers what white played in this move, in this position.
Let's go, guys. This one, you got a lot of hints here, so
yes.
I'm expecting that many of you will find this one. But let's go. It is Moskalenko playing a very strong GM, Fedorchuk.
Yes, Fedorchuk, yeah.
And yeah, fantastic job by all of you. This is the correct move, f5.
Beautiful, yeah.
Anupam, Narendra, Vikash, Chess for Fun, Tejas, Ajinkya, DV, Khalil, Sayan, and Vedant Srivastav just push the pawn to f5.
Right, yeah. Well, a5 was also suggested by some people. Well, you could think about that, but it's not the wing where you should play. You should play on the king's wing. Yeah. After a5, I think he can play a6 and b5, something like that. So f5 is the right move.
f5.
Yes, because now he cannot take on f5, because then you take on d5 and you destroyed his pawn chain completely. So and this is much preferable for white. But now Fedorchuk tried rook takes c3 to get some counterplay. So now we can ask again.
Okay.
What would you play with white in this position?
Guys, it's very difficult to beat a grandmaster, because generally when they are under pressure, like after a move like f5, they will fight back with some resourceful idea like rook takes c3. So yes. You need to keep your calm, and you need to think whether how should you continue? Should you take the rook? Should you not take? What is the move that you should play here? Ranjan says, would g6 disrupt the plan if it was black to move instead of white?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Or even f5. It's also an idea. Yeah. Yeah, that's why he played f5 immediately.
Immediately. He didn't let
Yeah.
black to go
Right.
f5 or g6.
Or
And
g6.
by the way, let's see how this one they have done, because this is a real challenge, I think. Oof. Not
Wow.
bad. Not bad, guys.
Not bad at all. Yeah. Very well done. Yeah.
Tejas,
Castling.
Savita, Divi, Vikas, Ishan, Ajinkya, Ojas, Hina, Sumit, and Champ TV.
Right.
So you can't
Well,
take here, right, Herman, or can you?
You cannot take, because then black has complete counterplay. After you have to move your king to e2, and then you take on d4, and the queen is too active, and the king is too vulnerable on e2, I think. So
Right.
maybe black even is better in this position. Could be, I don't know. But he doesn't let him go for this. But after castling, now he is ready for the f file. And the one other feature of f4, f5 is that he can play knight to f4, attacking the base as well, the base on e6. So I think Nimzowitsch was right pointing out that the base of the chain is the pawn, the fixed pawns, the last pawn on the fixed pawns as the base. Yes.
Fantastic.
Okay. So he played
rook c4.
c4. Yeah.
Took.
Rook c1. Oh yeah, he took, of course.
And now he played another nice move here.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can ask this one. Yeah.
But okay, we'll ask the next one. He played rook c1.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the next move. Oh no, the next move is easy.
Okay, so queen b3.
b3, yes.
b5. Now he took.
Took, yeah.
Pawn takes. I have started to feel like this king is very lonely. Like there's a rook here, bishop here, queen, knight, right. Too many attackers.
Right. Yeah, you see, white has activated all his pieces already.
And the base of the pawn chain is lost now.
Right.
Beautiful.
But it ends very funny. So we can ask the readers.
So
maybe this move, I think.
Yeah, guys, white to play.
Yeah, white to play.
This is the last question of today's stream. So try to answer everyone. What should white do here? It's a very nice move.
Very nice, yeah, yeah. By the way, Moskalenko had written a book just at the time when my book Chess Strategy for Club Players came out, and there was a short list in America where those books were on the short list, and so the internet audience had to choose which book was book of the year of the chesscafe.com. And well, the thing was that in Holland there was a website in English where they had published a review which was not so nice about the book of Moskalenko. So he was not amused about this, and he protested against that one. And he was talking about the 80-year war between Spain. He was living in Spain and Holland. So it was a big quarrel, but finally, well.
Finally, you got the award, right?
Yes. But I like the man. He's a nice guy, and he's written nice books. So
yeah, no, wonderful person. I have also met him in UAE, and a very nice. Yeah, also he likes to play very aggressive chess.
Right.
A very attacking player. So here, let's see what's the move that. Nice, guys.
Wow.
Knight f8. That's not an easy move to find, and brilliant job done by Chess with Adi, Rajam, Gattu, Akshit, Sumanish, Savita, Khalil, Mitul, Ishan, and Paramita. Well done.
What can I say? Well done.
But the thing is, if here there's a mate in a very weird way, and also the knight, the knight is attacked here from the queen.
Yes.
So you have to take it, and then rook takes,
Yes.
queen takes, and guys, maybe one more. Just what do you
Yes.
play here as
Yeah.
white?
Yeah.
White to play. Let's
This is also nice to.
just be sure that they have found this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Intermediate move. Yeah.
Beautiful. Neeraj, Pranay, Jaideep, Vikas, Savita, Chess for Fun, Sayan, Sagar. Well done, guys. Check here. And now the king has to move because, and then you can take the queen and eventually
And the
take the
knight is
knight.
hanging. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was a nice game by Moskalenko.
It was tremendous spending time with you discussing this. I feel that our viewers have improved their understanding of pawns. And how would you recommend them to go for this? Like, let's say if someone gets your Fritztrainers here, should they watch it one by one? Should they? How would you say that they should go over it?
Well, I can tell you that the first chapter, there are 5 chapters on those 2 DVDs. That the first chapter is discussing the 4 themes on the 2 DVDs, and that means that chapter 2 and chapter 3 is on the first DVD. It's about after the introduction, it goes about open files and half open files, the pawn chain, and DVD 2 it goes further with a very large content about the isolated pawn, queen pawn, and the passed pawns. So together you can you learn a lot from each chapter. It's quite independent. The chapters are independent. So I would recommend not to watch so many hours after each other, because you lose concentration, and then maybe you might not get the point of the ideas.
So maybe go slowly over it, maybe take a week or so to go over the entire stuff, and then that could be an idea, yes?
Right.
Okay. And guys, I just want to also inform you, and this could be useful to someone who has already got stuff from ChessBase before, that now the website is like, if you go to account.chessbase.com and the videos section, then if you have got this Fritz trainer, you can basically now stream it directly. So for example, here if I go into my Fritz trainers, I can already get Herman's here without any downloads or anything. I can just start, click here, and it opens on the browser itself.
The subject of this DVD
Yes.
is
So-
pawn
Yeah, and
structures.
when you have a premium
A lot of
account on
club
ChessBase,
players
it's
are struggling
you have
with
access to all the
understanding
videos
the
on ChessBase, and they told me about it are almost about 6,000 or 7,000 videos already.
And also
by
you have a
grandmasters.
show there. The show is moving before understanding before moving.
Understanding before moving. Yeah, that is. I have a show on Sunday. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the Netherlands, but I don't know the time difference. But it's every Sunday. Especially not for this summer, because I'm now moving to another house, so I have already recorded less videos. But normally it's every Sunday that this show is continuing.
Okay, so fantastic, guys. You can check out the description. There are links there. If you are from India and the surrounding countries, then there's a link. If you are from Europe, USA, there are links from chessbase.com. Please do go and check it out. And I think, Herman, it was such a wonderful time we had with you. We discussed pawn structures and also a lot of questions. I hope you had a good time as well.
I have a good time, and I have a very good audience, I think, because very strong people in the audience. So I like that very much.
Yes, and I hope we can do at some point again when you have shifted your houses, and maybe something else when you record. But thank you for your contribution to chess. You've done so much over the years. It's
You're
truly
welcome.
phenomenal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Guys, that was Herman Grooten, the experienced IM and chess trainer from the Netherlands. I hope you enjoyed the lessons. Mayur Gupta says, "Wow, just amazing." Did you guys like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you learn something new? Do let me know, and also remember that if you write down in the comments what is it that you learned from today's session, the three best comments will get the volume 1 of this Fritz trainer, which is chess pawn structures. So just check it out, and you can write down and try to be elaborate there so that the best comment wins you. Rajam Shankar says, today I learned that we should try for long-term investment in good structures instead of always trying to play for cheapos. Yes, that's a good idea. Chess with Adi says, yes, improved a lot. Swagan says, learnt a lot. Ritik Ladkhani says, learnt a lot about structures. And Science says, great stream. Okay, that was wonderful to know that you all enjoyed. I'll see you all tomorrow with the 10th round of the candidates. But for now, I'm signing off. Take care, guys. Bye bye.